that she wants to make this piece on today. Before picking that pipe, she definitely had in mind how big and heavy this piece was going to be, so kind of picking the right diameter on that stainless steel pipe as well, from all the different options that we have back here. Now when she picked out that pipe, she definitely took a second to heat up the very end of that stainless steel pipe as well inside of this reheating furnace. It's at about 2,100 degrees Fahrenheit. It's almost a temperature of lava, over 2,000 degrees. Now when that pipe was hot again, then she was able to go back inside of this bigger furnace over here and wind up some clear molten glass on the end of that pipe. And you see just how quickly that glass is falling off of that stainless steel pipe. If she stops rotating that pipe, that glass really drips off. And if you don't continue turning it or flip it over soon enough, it can drip right off and puddle on the ground as well. I don't really want that glass to fall off the pipe today, so she's just constantly rotating that pipe and keeping it as centered as she can. This piece that she's making, she's not wanting to just make it with the clear, transparent glass that we have inside of that furnace. So she has some color already picked and laid out over here. So she has a transparent, kind of dark blue color in this tray. And in the other tray, she has a really bright, opaque yellow color. So we'll be kind of playing around with how light's going to pass through this piece. And you see she's really trying to oversaturate this clear glass that she has on the pipe right now. Eventually we're going to blow this piece and stretch it pretty far, so we don't want to lose any of that saturation. We're kind of oversaturating that glass with a couple coats of that yellow color. Now in between every coat, you see she's kind of really melting that glass back in. Now this crushed up glass color is more commonly referred to as frit, F-R-I-T. Now this frit comes to us in different sizes, and we can buy them from a company that manufactures all this frit. You can buy half a kilo or a kilo. Now the glass color also comes in big bars like that. It kind of depends on what color application you want on your piece. And now that she's gotten all that color and really melted that color in and shaped it by rolling it on this stainless steel table as well, then you see she started a bubble on the inside of that yellow colored glass. It's definitely a little tough to see the bubble on the inside because of all the color that's on the outside now. But what we're looking for is to kind of see that glass just grow a little bit and the contour to change and to see the bulge happen. You can definitely tell it's hollowed down because it went from a very cylinder shape and kind of started going round and stretching. That technique that she was using to blow into that pipe, that's referred to as the blow and cap technique. You can blow in that stainless steel pipe and then cap or trap your air inside of that pipe as well. Now once you have all of that air trapped inside of that pipe, that pressure has to go somewhere, so it pushes right into that molten glass that's on the end of that pipe. And you see she was really letting that glass cool down when she was walking around and letting you guys take a closer look. Now the main reason for letting that glass cool down is so we can go back inside of this furnace and dip back into that molten glass and get more glass on top. So I like to compare it to candle making. Like when you take your wick and dip it into hot wax and then you let it cool and harden and dip it again into the hot wax to build up your layers or to make a bigger candle. That's essentially what she's doing over here as well. Every time she goes inside of that furnace, she'll have to let that previous glass and that bubble cool down quite a bit. Now, if that glass is still too hot, it would, and if you were to go into the furnace while that glass was still hot, it would just, that yellow glass would just drip off inside of that clear melt. Now we have about 400 pounds of clear glass inside of that furnace. All of that clear glass is sitting in a big crucible pot, and it's all heated up by natural gas. We wouldn't want to contaminate all of that clear glass with our yellow colored glass. I'm sure everybody else doesn't want to make yellow colored glass. If that were to happen, we would pretty much have to stop what we were making and try to pull that yellow colored glass out of there before it really got mixed around. Now you see she hasn't stopped turning the pipe. We really can't stop turning until we're really all the way done with this piece. And at the end, when it's inside of this kiln right here, that's pretty much when we can stop turning and rotating that stainless steel pipe. Now that furnace that's holding all of that clear glass, that furnace never gets turned off either. So it stays on 24/7, especially since we're blowing glass in here pretty much every single day. It's just more efficient for us to leave it on and running rather than turning it off and then turning it back on. If we were to turn it off, it would probably take 3 days for it to cool down for 400 pounds of glass, and then 3 more days for it to get hot again. So it takes us almost a week for that process. So that's where that furnace has been running now for almost 3.5 years now. And she was using this pretty interesting hand pad over here to shape her glass. You may have noticed some smoke and sparks kind of coming off of that pad as well. I don't know if you guys can tell what it's made out of. But that pad is made out of the Tampa Bay Times. This is just newspaper folded a bunch of times so we have a pretty thick layer. And that newspaper pad's been soaked in water. So we're kind of using the steam principle there. We're not burning through that newspaper pad very quickly. All that water evaporates and creates a bit of steam in between that newspaper pad and the hot glass. She purposely shaped that bubble kind of in a long tapered shape so she could fit inside of that metal mold. That metal mold is more commonly referred to as an optic mold. You'll find it in pretty much every glass studio. But these optic molds are really commonly used as in order to make glass pumpkins, let's say, like the ones you see in the gallery. Yeah. On. Properly go inside of that optic mold, she had to get that bubble really, really hot so it really flowed into the grooves of that metal mold and picked up all of that texture in those ridges. Now, that little flame that came off of this tool is just the beeswax over here kind of burning off. But that beeswax really helps us glide on that glass, especially because you're squeezing pretty hard. If there was no beeswax on that tool, you would really hear like nails on a chalkboard, like that metal scratching against the glass. But you can see she's got a really really good constriction there. And that score line that she's made, she's really tightened it up quite a bit. On. And notice none of the pieces in the gallery have a pipe still attached to it, so by making that constriction, that's how we'll be able to kind of separate that piece from the pipe once we're all done shaping it. So if you were to take one of our beginning glass blowing courses here, making that score line is definitely really important and a basic fundamental move that you would learn. And along with that blow and cap technique as well, to kind of start a little bubble in the glass. Now Carrie was just letting me know that she's happy with the size and shape of that vessel for now, so she's asked me to bring another addition. Now this addition is just going to be clear, transparent glass straight out of the furnace that I'll invert straight up and down. And when she has the desired amount, she's going to cut away that glass from the pipe here. Now when it's fresh out of that furnace like that, that glass is so hot and soft and it just drips right off like honey. And at that point, it's really easy to just cut and trim off like that too. But since both parts are hot, they just stick together pretty easily. You don't need glue or anything to kind of attach two parts of glass. Now this fresh glass is much hotter than the rest of the bubble here, this yellow colored bubble, which looks orange right now, but it will be bright yellow when it cools down. We can really press on this clear glass pretty hard from the bottom here and from the sides as well to make a nice maybe 90-degree angle on that clear foot, and also so it's nice and level, so it sits nice and flat on the table. I believe she'll be making a platter today, kind of like the ones that are hung up in the gallery or the Jubilee collection. By adding that clear foot, you can even wrap a wire around it and kind of hang it up like a painting. Now after shaping that clear foot, we're done working on the bottom half of this vessel. So she's asked me to grab another pipe, so we can transfer that piece onto this new pipe here. And once we transfer this piece, we'll be able to work on the other half of this vessel, where we can start kind of opening this piece into a platter. Now this is definitely the most delicate part in the entire process. Since we're trying to separate that piece from the original pipe and transfer it, it can definitely break off and land on the ground as well if everything doesn't go correctly. But you can see she's adding a couple drops of water. Yeah. But that broke off pretty nicely. Let's give her a round of applause. Yeah, that broke off nice and evenly right on that score line. Now because she added few drops of water, that can definitely cool that glass down pretty quickly. So I ran it right back into that reheating furnace to give that glass a good amount of heat. Kind of melt in any small minor cracks that might be in that glass before the crack travels and breaks the entire piece. But that transfer part's really tricky because at any point, if the glass falls below 1,000 degrees or 900 degrees Fahrenheit, it's too cold and it'll be thermally shocked and it'll just start to spontaneously crack and break off of the end of the pipe. And that's probably what happened with that piece in that bucket right there. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen today, so that transfer went pretty smooth. I would say when you're first learning how to blow glass, probably 70% of your pieces break during the transfer process. It can definitely be really frustrating, but that's why we have that common saying in a glass studio. You do have to break a lot of glass in order to make a lot of glass. Unlike ceramics or metal, you can't set it down and kind of restart. You have to keep making that piece until you're all the way done with it and put it away in that kiln. Now the clear glass that's inside of that furnace is mostly made up of silica, soda ash, and limestone to get this really clear formula for glass. So it's super crystal clear, like this little piece right here. Now in that formula and that recipe, if I were to add sulfur, a raw metal oxide, I would tint the clear glass yellow. If I were to add cobalt, I would make it blue, or iron would tint it green, or titanium would make it white, and so on. So different metals and minerals can tint our clear glass in different colors. Now that's why this yellow changes so much. So it looks very orange when it's over 2,000 degrees. And that's just that metal kind of having that reaction. Now if we were using red looks really black when it's hot. However, blue, green, white, and black don't really change very much when they're hot. You can really tell that they still look blue. Now that nod she gave me just meant that she wanted the next edition. Now this next edition is going to be referred to as a lip wrap in the finished product. If you guys have been to the Chihuli collection yet, you may have seen a really great example of some lip wraps, or even our gallery here. One of them being the Venetian wall with the big orange platters that are hung up on the wall. And each of those orange platters have a really clean, thin line of color going all the way around the rim of that platter. So this is how they would have done that lip wrap process here. I'll shake it up real quick. Since we're going to stretch this transparent blue color all the way around the rim of her piece here, I just want to make sure I have, I'm saturating this color as well, so I got 2 coats of that color. Therefore, when she stretches it, they don't have like little windows of clear glass or anything. Now this reheating furnace that we've been heating up our glass in is also heated up by natural gas. But since we're not housing glass in here 24/7, we can turn that one off at the end of the day and then turn it back on in the morning. And it takes about 2 hours for it to really get up to temperature like this. So we have a big 3-inch main line running in the back of the room there that all have drop downs to each of that equipment back there. Now, kind of like that that clear foot that we attached earlier, we were just taking that heat to really press the blue lip wrap into the body, make sure it's nice and seamless. Now if we don't take that extra heat and that time to really press that in, and you can really see a seam in between the two parts. Later, with a little tap or anything, that lip wrap could just kind of pop off. We're really fusing and melting each of those parts in. Like I said, our working time is really short, so you see how often she's going back and forth to the reheating furnace. Just making sure this back area here never falls below 1,000 degrees. Now, if you're wondering how she's holding onto this pipe without burning her hands, this pipe that we're using here, and all these other pipes that we have here as well, they're all an aircraft grade stainless steel, so they all have a really low conductivity level to that pipe, so it doesn't travel all the way back to where her hands are or where the rubber handle is as well. We're also not plunging the pipe all the way inside of that furnace as well, so a very little amount of that metal actually gets plunged into that furnace. Now the heat does travel on this pipe, but it's really just like a foot or two, so you can see her hands are never in the front half of the pipe that we're using. Now this pipe's kind of brand new, so it's a little hard to tell where the mark is on the brand new pipe. Okay. But on this one, this is a pretty old one, you can see where the brown ends on that pipe. So that's where the heat's just been traveled over and over again. So that's a really good indicator, especially if you're first learning how to blow glass, like where the heat kind of ends. But we also have that pipe cooling device that just runs room temperature water on our pipes too, if it ever does kind of get past that brown area. Now we're getting pretty close to the end. And you see she's really stretched that little opening that was an inch wide farther and farther. But as the piece starts getting thinner, her working time is definitely getting shorter as well. We'll go ahead and do the last and final shaping this time. Now it happens pretty quickly, and it only really happens once, so take a look closely. If you want to take any videos or photos as well. But she's going to use gravity and centrifugal force to really spin this piece open. Now once she spins it open really fast, and you can see just how flat she can get it by spinning it open really fast for a while. Now she's not wanting it to just be flat, so kind of like those platters in the gallery, by letting that piece just hang down for a few seconds, you can really get that organic kind of fluted shape on the top half of that vessel. But you see how quickly that happened. She only had 10 seconds to get that shape in that glass. It's already cold, and that glass is already frozen in place. Now she's happy with the way that piece looks. So you see she's adding water on it already, so we can go ahead and put it away in that kiln. No, I don't know. Okay. It's just wide enough for me to catch. We'll go ahead and put this piece inside of this kiln. That's at about 900 degrees Fahrenheit. And once we're done blowing glass at the end of the day, we can start turning it off and letting it come down slowly. Nice job, that was pretty.